Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. In this tutorial, we're going to create a Valentine's Day themed tumbler. We're going to do so using most of the glitters from the latest Chase Ray Creations glitter box. Now, all of these colors have been individually released on the website. You can either choose to subscribe to this. It is available by itself without subscription for a period of time on the website every month. Or, of course, you can just do the subscription or catch them whenever they hit the website individually. So, our four glitter colors are Bashful, Bitten, Hopeless, Romantic, and Lovey-Dovey. But we probably will incorporate some Rachel from Southern Belle Glitter and maybe some magenta. So here's all the possibilities for this tumbler. And I know someone will ask, both of these vinyls in the background are from GLAMOUR TRIBE Customs. This one over here is beautiful and it is Bella. And this one here is Prismatic Paint Texture number 14, okay? So what we're going to use for this tumbler is a pre-cut tumbler template from Kimberly Hobbs Taylor Designs. I do have a discount code for this website, so make sure if you do grab some of these, you check down below and get the link and the discount code. But you can get many of these designs digitally, or if you're like me and have a horrible time cutting your templates out of this double-sided adhesive, you can get them pre-cut. This one is for a 32-ounce plump from TIPSY Magnolia. And there you have all the information for this one, okay? So we are going to use a 32-ounce plump, and this is actually the very first time that I have used one of these, so just bear with me. Hopefully everything goes as planned, but we will see. So I have done double-sided adhesive tumblers in the past, and I would put these on my tumbler first before adding on any of my glitter or working with it. But I have saw so many different places that it's much easier if you glitter them first and then seal and then add to your tumbler. So that's what we're going to do, and I'll let you know which one was easier for me. But this just in general feels like really good quality vinyl. So I'm already loving this, where the stuff that I used before just felt really flimsy. So this file is available digitally, or you can get these pre-cut. They're pre-cut for other tumbler companies and sizes as well. Now, as I said, we're going to use Bashful and Bitten for certain. And then I'm also going to incorporate True Lies from Chase Ray Creations. Gosh, the light is just coming in here so good today. How pretty. This is a pink and green shift opal, so I thought that would match really well because you can see a little bit of greens in this one as well. What I like to do is start with our darker colors first, okay? I want to use my darker colors first because I do not want to use my light colors, and my dark colors get stuck to where what was I saying? I don't want my dark colors to get stuck in my light colors, so I'm going to do the dark colors first. That's what I was saying. Okay. We're good. So, I am going to do all of my hearts in red. So the very first thing we're going to do is very gently lift up the hearts. And you do want to make sure that if you pull up any of the template around whatever you're pulling up, you push that down so glitter don't get stuck underneath it. So I'm just pushing that little middle piece down as I pull these off. Okay, so we're gonna take bitten. Make sure that's, now I'm taking my nail, I'm not using my finger because I don't want to put any oils on that sticky part. But we're gonna take this and just sprinkle it in those areas. Okay, and now I'm just going to pat. I don't want to rub because I don't want to push any of those glitter pieces underneath the stencil. I want to keep it in these spots, so I'm just going to dab, kind of work it down into that adhesive. When you're doing these, unless you're working with a very big area like this up here, you want to stick to finer cuts of glitter. The finer the glitter, the more coverage that you're going to get. This is a 0.015 cut. And honestly, that's about as large as I would go for that. I'm going to use Bashful, and I believe I'm going to use that in all of these little cross areas, and then all of our squares I'm going to do white. Now, if you don't feel like you have enough coverage over top of your shapes, then you can certainly come in with a glue. Use a glitter glue. My favorite is the Southern Belle Full Glue, and that would work really well because it is super tacky. So if you don't feel like your coverage is enough, then just come in with a small paintbrush and you can go over it again. I'm going to come in with Bashful. Now, if you're really worried about your glitters getting mixed with each other, just do a section like this and then knock it off into a little cup or container and continue to reuse instead of pouring it back into your bag. I'm not too concerned about 1 or 2 specks getting in there, so. I'm gonna go brush off this excess. Just gonna dump this on here and then I'm gonna move it around. So hopefully all these little pieces will get kind of intertwined and get really good coverage. I'm gonna put this back in here to catch our glitter. Now let's see. Oh yeah, that worked good. I do want these pieces to lay down flat, so brush these pieces that are sticking up. Brush off this excess. Okay, that worked out so much better than I anticipated. Look how pretty this is. I love it, I love it, I love it. Okay, so now we need to do all of our whites. And I am going to do small sections of the white, then I'm going to knock off the excess onto a sheet of paper and just reuse it. Might not care too much about contaminating my colored glitters, but I do not want color in my whites. Just gonna sprinkle it over this side. Actually, I just won't use very much. I'll do the whole thing and then just kind of move it around. Ooh, quit running away. Okay, I'm gonna let that fall into any cracks up there. Okay. The big reveal. Oh my goodness. I love that so freaking much. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to get this on the cup. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna take this outside And when I say I'm going to do a very light coat, I'm going to do a very light coat of Rust-Oleum Matte Clear. You basically want to dust this. If you go too heavy, then it will get in behind the glitter and it will look terrible. It can also mess up the adhesive in behind it, and you'll get oily looking spots, but you do want to seal this in. So I'm going to do that probably 3 to 4 times to make sure that this doesn't move around when I put it on my tumbler, and then we will be back to add it to the tumbler. All right, guys, so we are to the most tedious part of this whole process, and that is just getting this onto the tumbler. So what we're gonna do is separate some of the wrap from the backing. And I did give this probably, it was 4 coats of the Rust-Oleum Matte Clear Coat. And I have spray painted my tumbler white. You want to make sure, especially if you're using white or light colors in your design, that your base is a nice bright white. Make sure it's even, that way any of the darker spots does not show through. What I recommend is getting the prepped white tumblers from Tipsy Magnolia. That's actually what this was, but I've stripped this tumbler twice now. So I did use the Rust-Oleum Matte White for this. It's actually like a paint and primer in one, I believe, and it goes on really well. You know, I love my color shot paints, but their white kind of sucks. This is what I usually use for my white. It only takes 2 thin coats to get some really good coverage. And I'm not gonna lie, I am nervous as heck, y'all. This is the first time that I have put a wrap on after doing the stencil. Most of the time I put the stencil on and then I glitter them. But I've just seen so many times that it's easier to do it this way. So once you have that all the way on, you're going to start removing the back as I'm pulling this around the tumbler. Now, if this were vinyl, you know, I would be putting pressure with my vinyl squeegee. But we can't do that since there's glitter on there, giving it some texture. And of course, I don't want to rub my glitter off. So once I get it on there pretty good, I'm just going to put it flat on my table and I'm going to roll my tumbler onto it. Now, what I think makes this so easy to apply is it appears that there is white vinyl underneath the double-sided tape, which makes it just a tad bit thicker and a lot easier to put on. And it's also going to prevent, if you've ever used actually got the shakes because I don't want to mess this up. If you have ever used those double-sided adhesive sheets before and you use white glitter, I have got kind of like an oily spots in behind my white just because it didn't completely adhere to the tumbler in the back. And I am putting it on the white vinyl. Oh my gosh, it worked. putting it on the white vinyl will prevent that. So you don't have to be so particular. And that is very nice. Oh my gosh. Look how good it wound up. Happy dance. Okay. I'm just gonna push this down around the edge here, and I'm probably going to give it one more seal before we go in, since I kind of moved some of that glitter around. Oh my gosh, look, 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 look. So freaking good, y'all. Yes. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to glitter the bottom of this tumbler before we seal this in. So let's get to doing that, because it does look a little rough down there. Alrighty, I've got my favorite glue, my Southern Belle full glue, and a little brush, and we are carefully just gonna paint the bottom to cover all this up. It looks a hot mess. Go away. And just to clarify, this is not the second time I've stripped this tumbler with this design. It's just been other things that I haven't liked, or the last time I got so many bubbles in my epoxy for whatever reason. I've had the same torch for probably 4 years, and it was the absolute best torch. It was a small handheld one, and it worked really, really well because it had very small stream of flame that come out, but it come out with so much force that I only had to go over my tumblers once after I had put epoxy on there, like one spin around, and it got all of the micro bubbles out of my epoxy, because I'm a really fast mixer. I don't have the patience to sit and mix, you know, for 5 minutes. I whip it really fast. So I always have a lot of micro bubbles that I need to remove, and that torch was just incredible. Well, it finally croaked, and I've been through 6 different ones, and I keep returning them because they all suck. Or they're just not comparable, so it's a big learning curve, if that makes sense. So I've had quite a few cups that I've had to strip because of micro bubbles or from over torching. Yep. Okay, I'm just gonna use Bashful on the bottom. Would use white, but I don't really like white on the bottom of my cups unless it's a solid white cup. Oh my gosh, I didn't dry that. Great. That's okay. Okay. So since I forgot to dry this, I'm just going to sit it to the side and allow it to dry on its own for a little bit. I'll brush off the excess and spray seal this a couple of times. I will give it 2 coats of epoxy, sanding in between, because I want this to be smooth to add on our decal, and then we will return. Okay, so I found a cow image that I think I'm going to use instead of some words. This cow is so cute. And normally this would have transferred over with the background already removed, but I didn't quite like the coloring. So I did a little bit of editing to it just to darken up the cow and brighten the colors just a bit. So since I did that on my phone, it actually added a background here, but that is going to allow us to remove the large areas and leave the smaller areas that might not cut so well with our Cricut. So once I pull my cow over into Design Space, I don't pay for these fancy features, so I am just going to click out the sections that I do not want to print and cut. Once I remove these big backgrounds, I'm going to come through and remove the smaller areas. There's a few that I'm just going to leave because I know that they're not going to cut really, really well. Like this spot right here. That's not going to cut out perfect, but we are going to remove all of these white squares. See this little section right there? That would have been an attempted cut as well, and I know that's not going to work out. Everything that I want to cut out, I'm just clicking and removing it so that area is transparent. I'm leaving that little strip of white. Now if you take the image directly from the Etsy download, then it's not going to have the white background where you can click and remove it yourself. All I did was you can do the tiniest bit of editing on your phone or your computer in your like photo gallery, and it's automatically going to add a white background in there. So that's really simple how I got it to be white where I can manually remove these areas. Let's double check this. Okay. And I'm thinking, oh, there's a spot. I'm thinking that's pretty good right there. So let's apply. Going to click on flat graphic because that's going to allow us to do print to cut in full color. So we're going to do, let me go with 4.25, and likely what I will do is take a couple of these hearts from here and bring them down into this area. That way it fills up the little gap that we're going to have at the point. It'll make more sense whenever we get this on our tumbler. But for now, I'm not going to put this directly on. I'm going to create a white offset. I'm going to do 0.035. Okay, we're going to apply. Change this to a basic cut. So now that's going to go on a different map. Head over to Make. Now I have the HP DeskJet 3752. And that printer, it was like 65 bucks on Black Friday years ago, and it has been wonderful. I have the HP like auto ship on my ink. All I use is HP ink in it, and it always prints really good quality. So I'm gonna get my printable vinyl, and we're gonna pop it in our machine, and we're gonna just follow the directions on print to cut for this. Okay, so I will be sealing this in with the Adhesive Apothecary binding potion. I'm just gonna put a little bit of this over top of our decal. Now you can seal this in with a clear coat. I usually recommend Rust-Oleum matte. Gloss tends to leave some little glossy looking wet spots. It's the only way that I know how to explain it, but anyway, gloss paint usually leaves wet spots, and even after I epoxy, it still looks wet in those areas. So you can use the Rust-Oleum matte clear coat, or a great alternative is this binding potion. I used a little bit too much, so I'm trying to brush it off. Just brush it over. We're sealing in our vinyl simply because I do not want my epoxy to go down into the porous areas of our paper or our printable vinyl and create micro bubbles, because it will do that. This binding potion is good for many things. If there is a little area of glitter that you need to touch up on your tumblers or projects, you can dab a little bit of this stuff on there to apply the glitter, and then go over it once more to seal that glitter in. You can actually use it to seal over top of sanded tumblers. Now, not heavily sanded with a low grit, but if you are using a high grit sandpaper and your tumbler is pretty smooth, it works really well and does not seal in those sand marks. It works kind of like epoxy does. It just covers it and glosses it right up. Come off. You can also seal in your glitter with it instead of using a spray paint. Now the trick is, if you use this, you do want to remove the excess vinyl before it dries. So I'm just going to carefully remove all of this extra vinyl. Now our tumbler is super sanded. Otherwise, I probably would have just put it on the tumbler directly and then spray sealed it. But again, this is a very good solution. Let me get all of these little areas. Okay, so here is our offset. This is the Pearl White Shimmer vinyl from TECKWRAP Craft, and we're going to use the TECKWRAP Craft transfer tape. You can see it's really foggy. I have put it on my cotton pants leg multiple times just so I can remove as much tackiness as possible. So just so you can hear, there's hardly any tackiness left, okay? You really don't want it to grab a hold of your printed vinyl, because it can pull off a little bit of color. So in order to get this to stick, I'm just going to apply that down that way. And we're gonna grab our squeegee. I really should have brushed all this glitter off. I'm gonna grab our squeegee and just apply pressure. I have to get a couple of these pieces to release here. Hello. Usually it is not this difficult to remove the backing. TECKWRAP Craft is really, really, really good printable vinyl. I cut my other vinyl first, and I usually do the deeper setting for it, and I forgot to change my settings when I did this one. I'm getting really frustrated at this though. So let's take this off, and then we're just gonna have to manually put all of our hearts back on there. So I'm gonna do that, and then I will be back. I finished up adding our little cow to the offset. I am missing some tiny pieces, but it looks fine still. So that is okay. Now we just gotta figure out how to get it from here to here. So I also cut some strips on the Pearl Light Pink vinyl, and we are going to take these strips and put it right here on the edge of our larger section. This vinyl is almost, it's a near perfect match to the pink glitter that we used. That light pink glitter, so it's going to work really well. And I cut these larger strips at 11.5 inches by 0.08 inches. The small one is 0.05. We'll be using both. Craft blade. I always cut down the center of the point to make a point like that. If you allow them to overlap, it can cause lifting, and it can also cause some bubbles to get underneath there, because your vinyl never actually lays flat if you leave it like this. So I see a lot of people just cutting it here and here. Don't do that. Come right down the middle like this. Create a point. Just don't get excited and rip it off like that. Okay. Create those points. All right, now I'm gonna go with a smaller one. I'm just gonna go right along the side here. For our big task of getting this on here. We can do it. So I hate to go into this negative, but I feel like regardless of how I put this on here, or how much tack I take away, I'm still gonna have issues. So we're gonna go for it and hope for the best. I'm putting my super tacky vinyl or transfer tape straight on there. Let's see if we can get it to release. So I have found my center point. And then to make sure I got it straight, I left extra up here and used the grid on the transfer tape. I'm just gonna press this guy down. Just a little patience. Something I don't have, but it's pulling up our sealer though. It's okay. So we did get this on here, but it pulled up some of our sealer. So I am just going to rub that stuff off, and I will reseal it using the same stuff. I'll just be careful of where my edges are. That way I don't take any of the sealer on the outside of our decal onto the sanded area. And then I am going to go back into Design Space, and I'm going to cut a couple more of these hearts out to put them down here and maybe around the side, just to bring everything together. You get our hearts. What I'm going to do is just make this bigger so I can crop them out. Hop over here to Shapes. Let's see, I think that will work good. I'm going to take this shape. Actually, let me do a square. I think a square will be better. Okay, if we send that to the back, then we can kind of see where it's laying out. And then we're going to highlight the shape as well as the hearts and hit slice. That's going to cut out just those things that are in our square. So we can delete all of the extras. And now we're left with this. So we can make our hearts bigger or smaller. And now you can't contour a print to cut, but we can come back in here with other shapes and remove these little bits and pieces like this. You just repeat the same steps over and over until you have everything that you want out of there. And again, we just have this little piece right here. Just like that. Now we have all this extra stuff going, and we're just left with our hearts. I'm going to duplicate this just a couple of times so we have a few that we can add around and below, and then I'm going to create an offset for all of these as well. Same offset as we used for our main image. And then of course, I have no idea why there's a little dot beside of these hearts, but we'll cut it off. But we're gonna change that to cut, make, and then we'll just do the same thing as we did with our cow. I already went through and applied the hearts where I feel like I want them. And now we're gonna go in with these. That also cut too deep. I really don't understand. This is so frustrating. I cut these on a lower setting than I cut the other ones, and they still, what is going on? They cut too deep and they don't even fit the offsets. Breathe in and breathe out. Okay. Guess I'm going back to the cutting board. Literally. I'm just gonna recut them and see what happens. Okay. I don't know what happened to the last ones, but if you notice, this one, I changed nothing, and this one didn't even cut those little extra pieces that it was throwing on there. Hopefully these fit. And half went through and half didn't. Throw these other ones away. I'm determined to finish this one today. But when I finish this one, I'm not working on nothing else. The only reason I haven't thrown this yet is because I've put too much work into it to throw it. I'm going to seal all of those guys in and give this 2 coats of epoxy to finish it off. Say a prayer that nothing goes wrong in that process.
I love the way that this turned out. That decal was so worth our trouble, wasn't it? Look at how cute. Okay, so next time I definitely will be adding on the wrap prior to glittering. It was really easy glittering on a flat surface rather than curved. However, it was a little stressful trying to put the wrap on after I glittered, and I feel like I had to seal it way more than what I would if it was already on the tumbler. So that's our final result. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below and I'll answer them as quickly as possible. All materials that we have used will be listed down in the description with our discount codes. That is all for today. Thank you all so much. I'll see you next time.